The story begins with a crew of gangsters led by the enormous part cyborg Bad Boss, hunting down Vash the Stampede, in the hopes of earning the $60 billion bounty for his capture, after the humanoid typhoon disaster decimates the village of Dankin.
Meryl Streep and Millie Thompson, workers for the Bernardelli Insurance Society, are also dispatched to look into the allegations against Vash and prevent him from doing anything that would harm the business finances.
In the rocks above the town of Felmerl, Bad Boss and a bounty hunter by the name of Loose Ruth confuse one another for Vash.
Vash, Meryl, and Millie are trapped in the crossfire but can flee, and although Felmerl sustains significant damage, no one is hurt. When Meryl and Millie arrive in a village where the water supply has run out, they discover Vash working for wealthy water vendor Cliff Caesar. Cliff is concerned about someone who has been trespassing on his land and has hired Vash to protect a young woman named Marianne who is living at his estate. Vash, Meryl, and Millie find out the intruder are actually Marianne, a marshal looking into Cliff's operation and his monopoly on the water supply. Cliff's processing machinery overloads, his mansion is destroyed, and his stored water is released. The town is flooded as a result of Vash siding with Marianne and thwarting Cliff's attempts to kill them both.
Although Marianne puts Cliff in jail, no one genuinely thinks the man Cliff hired is Vash. Vash meets Frank Marlin, a drunk who was once a skilled gunsmith, in the city of Warrens. He had armed the locals to defend the town against some bandits, but after one of his firearms was used to murder his family during a bank robbery, he developed an alcohol addiction. Without a sheriff, Warrens is helpless to stop a gang from robbing an armored car until Vash motivates Frank and the locals to fight back. In appreciation, Frank stops drinking and fixes Vash's gun, stopping the robbery without any injuries.
Meryl, Millie, and Stephanie Bostock, a teenage heiress in Orleans, are held prisoner in a saloon by a gang that is out for revenge against Stephanie's father and the Grim Reaper, the local authority figure. Bostock murdered their parents and took their land years earlier, so they want to exact revenge on him.
Vash enters the bar and is also held captive.
When Stan, the local sheriff and one of Bostock's old raiders, hires several violent mercenaries to invade the saloon, the situation gets worse. Vash eventually defeats them, but it culminates in a confrontation between Bostock and the gang boss in which Bostock is wounded in the shoulder. In an effort to improve his reputation, Stan attempts to assassinate the commander.
However, Vash and Meryl disarm him and his lieutenants, and Meryl removes him from his position.
Vash discovers that everyone in the city of April is attempting to apprehend him in order to claim the $60 billion reward and use it to pay for urgently required plant repairs. The town's leader recruits Professor and Goffseth, Nebraska, two escaped outlaws, to find Vash and stop the destruction after the locals do significant damage in their chase. Vash risks everything to prevent the vicious duo from hurting innocent civilians, and he finally manages to stop Goffseth's enormous mechanical fist by firing it. Meryl eventually acknowledges, to her horror, that the odd man she and Millie have been pursuing might indeed be Vash the Stampede as the Nebraskas are taken.
Vash permits the residents of April to claim a $700,000 reward for killing the Nebraskas, which is sufficient to pay for plant repairs in the city.
Vash falls in love with Elizabeth, the team's stunning manager, as soon as the engineering team arrives aboard a sand steamer.
She engages him to defend herself, but when she takes him into a plant room with overloaded machinery, a masked assassin with long braided hair attacks him and imprisons them.
Vash is accused by her of destroying the third city of July, and she plans to kill him. When the survivors fell into chaos and bloodshed, leaving her an orphan at the age of 3, she holds him responsible. Vash tells her he has no memory of the day as he utilizes his abilities to subdue the plant. She sobs bitterly as she recalls his soothing her as a young child. April is grateful when Vash sails on the sand steamer and Meryl and Millie have taken jobs on board to watch over him and save money. A young stowaway named Kate, who is covertly assisting the vicious Bad Lad gang to capture the boat, becomes his friend. Brilliant Dynamite's Neon, their leader, intends to destroy the steamer by crashing it into a ravine in order to break open the safe storing the valuables of the passengers because he is dissatisfied with the haul. Vash saves Kate from being killed by the irascible Neon after he refuses to cooperate with the plan and claims that the craft belonged to his father. While helping Vash elude the Bad Lads, Kate confesses that his father created the steamer and he observes the lengths to which Vash will go to avoid hurting anyone, even after he has been injured. Vash and Kate are eventually apprehended by the gang, but Meryl and Millie, posing as gang members, hold Neon at gunpoint just as he is about to be killed.
Neon agrees to stop the steamer after Vash challenges him to a battle and prevails. However, the brake mechanism is no longer functional.
Kaito runs into the engine room to make amends for his involvement in the hijacking and trips the emergency stop switch when the crew is unable to.
Even though he is wearing protective equipment, he is severely burned, but due to his efforts and Neon's unexpected deployment of his escape car to stop the steamer, it stops just short of the canyon's brink.
Vash meets a traveling priest named Nicholas D. Wolfwood while taking a bus from the scene of the steamship crash to May City. Nicholas is attempting to raise money for an orphanage he supports. The two guys respond quickly to save a young girl who is in danger as a group of armed robots, relics of long-lost technology, attack the bus. During this procedure, Vash and Wolfwood are pulled through a quicksand gap and land in a submerged alien spacecraft that is in charge of the robots.
Together, they overcome their defenses and disable the main computer to protect the passengers from additional attacks. The next morning, the bus arrives in May City without incident. Vash discovers Wolfwood in May City working as a waiter at a restaurant run by a woman whose husband has vanished, leaving her and her son in a terrible financial situation. Wolfwood convinces Vash to enter a quick draw tournament with a $50,000 top prize to assist her, but Vash surprises Wolfwood also enrolling him. The two come up with a plan to pretend to be killed in the final round, wounded but not murdering all the assassins the organizer hired to find Vash and bring him in for the reward. Wolfwood forces the duplicitous tournament director to hand over the winnings. When her husband unexpectedly comes home, the restaurant owner is relieved that her obligations have been settled. Millie and Wolfwood come to find Julius and Moore, a couple of lovers who are attempting to flee as they are being driven across the desert by a caravan of vehicles. The son of the owner of the caravan company, Julius, has discovered that the firm collaborates with the mayor of Fondrique, his actual father, in people trafficking. Vash accepts a $20 million deal to assassinate Julius and keep the firm operating, much to Meryl and Millie's horror. Wolfwood argues that Julius should go back to the caravan since everyone's lives are in danger and that is more important than the young man's safety. Vash appears and shoots Moore and Julius from a distance, giving everyone the impression that they had died, but he used plastic bullets to allow the couple to escape together. Later, the owner apologizes to Julius and informs him that Moore and he are free. Wolfwood breaks off contact with Vash, Meryl, and Millie after observing that Vash came up with a solution he was unable to envision. Legato Blue Summers, leader of the Gung-Ho Guns and a potent telepath, interrupts Vash, Meryl, and Millie's tranquil day in town and informs him that he will perish that day.
Vash is subsequently detained while in jail and being investigated for the murder of a shoemaker. That night in prison, while Vash misses over Legato's advice, Manav the Gale charges in and kills him. Manav has trained alone for 20 years to become the ultimate killer. Vash, though, manages to flee and ultimately beats Manav after a drawn-out conflict in which Manav kills a large number of town residents.
Vash has Manav under gunpoint and is prepared to kill him when he has a moral crisis.
Manav acknowledges that he is unsure of who ordered him to kill Vash, but Vash decides to spare him.
As Meryl writes a report for her Bernardelli superiors, which is primarily recounted through flashbacks from prior episodes, the town's residents remain on edge.
She recounts their interactions with Vash while traveling alongside him with Millie.
They see the numerous scars he has acquired as a result of his decision to live a life devoid of murder, and he claims that he is on a mission to leave his past in the past.
Meryl and Millie decide to continue pursuing him after he leaves town without being charged with murder and the killing of the shoemaker.